Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of Terra's Hope. The ship was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. They were 3 days out from Earth, on a simple exploration mission to map new star systems. Jake liked these peaceful trips. No fighting, no danger, just flying among the stars and learning about the universe. "Captain," said Lieutenant Amy Collins from her station, "I'm getting something strange on the long-range scanners." Jake turned to look at her. Amy was his best officer, smart and careful. If she said something was strange, it was worth listening. 2. "What kind of strange?" Jake asked. Amy pressed some buttons on her console. The main screen lit up with dots and lines. "Multiple large ships, sir. Really large. And they're fighting." Jake stood up and walked closer to the screen. He could see what Amy meant. The ships were huge, much bigger than anything humans had ever built. Some were firing weapons at others. Bright flashes of light showed where the battle was happening. "How far away are they?" Jake asked. 2 hours at full speed, Amy said. "But Captain, there's more. I'm picking up a distress signal." Jake felt. His heart beat faster. A distress signal meant someone needed help. As a captain, he was supposed to help people in trouble, but these weren't human ships. "Let me hear it," he said. Amy worked at her controls. Strange sounds came from the speakers. It was a voice, but not human. The words were in a language Jake had never heard before. "Computer, can you translate?" Jake asked. The ship's computer made some beeping sounds. Then a new voice spoke, flat and emotionless like all computer voices. Translation beginning. Message says, "This is the royal fleet of the Zephyrian Empire. We are under attack by rebel forces. Our queen is in great danger. Any ships that can help us, please respond." Jake looked around the bridge. His crew was staring at him, waiting for orders. Dr. Lisa Park, his medical officer, had just walked onto the bridge. Ben Hayes, who ran communications, was checking his equipment. "Captain," said Dr. Park, "if there are injured people out there, we should help them." "But they're aliens," said Ben. "We don't know anything about them. This could be a trap." Jake thought about it. Humans had been exploring space for 50 years, but they had never met other intelligent life before. This was the first time, and these aliens were asking for help. "Amy, scan those ships again. How many are there?" Amy looked at her screens. "I count 12 large ships fighting against 8 smaller ones. The smaller ships seem to be winning." "The smaller ships must be the rebels," Jake said. "Send a message back. Tell them we received their distress call." Ben worked at his station. "Message sent, Captain." They waited. Jake felt nervous. What would aliens think of humans? Were they friendly? Dangerous? He wished he had more information. "Captain," Ben said suddenly, "I'm getting a direct response. It's coming straight to you, sir." "To me? How do they know who I am?" "I don't know, sir. But the computer says the translation is for the ship's commanding officer." Jake nodded. "Put it through." The speakers crackled. Then a new voice spoke. This time it wasn't the computer translating. Somehow the alien was speaking English, though with a strange accent. "Human Captain," the voice said. It was clearly female, musical, and beautiful. "I am Queen Lyralee of the Zephyrian Empire. I know your species exists. We have watched you from far away." Jake's mouth fell open. The aliens knew about humans? They had been watching Earth? The Queen continued. But now Jake could hear something different in her voice. It was shaking, like she was scared or upset. "Human Captain, I must speak with you face to face. My people and I are in great danger, not just from these rebels, but from something much worse. Our ancient laws, they will destroy my empire if I cannot find help soon." "Your Majesty," Jake said, not sure if that was the right way to talk to an alien queen. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earthship Terra's Hope. We want to help, but we're just one small ship. We don't have much firepower." "I do not need your weapons," the Queen said. Her voice was getting more shaky. I need something much more difficult to give, something that only a human can provide." Jake looked at his crew. They all seemed confused and worried. "What do you need?" Jake asked. There was a long pause. Jake could hear weapon fire in the background of the transmission. The battle was still going on. Finally, the Queen spoke again. Her voice was so quiet that Jake had to listen carefully. Human Captain, there is an ancient law that rules my people. I am the last of my bloodline. If I do not take a mate before the next moon cycle, I will lose my throne. My empire will fall apart. Millions of my people will die. Jake felt cold. Your Majesty, I'm sorry, but I don't understand how we can help with that. You can help, she said, and now her voice was definitely shaking. Because humans are the only species in the galaxy that is genetically compatible with my people, the only species that can save my bloodline. The bridge was completely silent. Everyone stared at Jake. Your Majesty, Jake said slowly. Are you asking me to? Yes, the Queen said. Her voice was barely a whisper now. Human Captain, I am asking you to be my mate, to marry me and help me save my people. If you say no, my reign will end, and this galaxy will fall into chaos. Jake's legs felt weak. He sat back down in his captain's chair. Around him, his crew was still staring, their mouths open in shock. On the screen, the alien ships continued, their deadly battle, and somewhere out there, an alien queen waited for his answer. Jake stared at the communication console, his heart beating fast. An alien queen had just asked him to marry her. The idea was so strange he couldn't think straight. Captain, Amy said quietly. What do we do? Before Jake could answer, the Queen's voice came through the speakers again. Captain Morrison, I know this is shocking. May I come aboard your ship? I can explain everything better if we meet in person. Jake looked around at his crew. Dr. Park nodded at him. If she's really in trouble, we should hear her out, she said. All right. Your Majesty, Jake said, you can come aboard, but I have to tell you our ship is very small compared to yours. Size does not matter, the Queen replied. I will come with only my personal guard. Please prepare your docking bay. 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the small docking area of Terra's Hope. His whole crew was there too. They had never met aliens before, and everyone was nervous and excited. A small alien ship attached to their docking port. Jake heard mechanical sounds as the airlocks connected. Then the door opened. The first thing through the door was a huge alien warrior. He was over 7 feet tall, covered in dark blue armor, and carried weapons that looked very advanced. His face was mostly human-like, but his skin was pale blue and his eyes were bright silver. I am Kethavar, the warrior said in a deep voice. I protect the Queen. Then Queen Lyralee stepped through the door and Jake forgot how to breathe. She was beautiful in a way that was both alien and familiar. She looked mostly human, but her skin had a soft blue glow. Her hair was long and silver, and her eyes were the same bright silver as her guards. She was tall and graceful, and she wore a simple white dress that seemed to shimmer. Captain Morrison, she said, walking toward him. Her voice was even more musical in person. Thank you for agreeing to see me. Jake found his voice. Your Majesty, welcome to Terra's Hope. The Queen looked around at Jake's crew. These are your people? They seem very young. We're explorers, Jake said. Most of us are in our 20s or 30s. Good, the Queen said. Young minds are more open to new ideas. She turned back to Jake. May we speak privately? What I must tell you affects not just my people, but yours as well. Jake led the Queen and her guard to the ship's small meeting room. Amy, Dr. Park, and Ben came too. The warrior Kethavar stood by the door with his arms crossed. Please sit, Jake said, pointing to chairs around the table. Queen Lyralee sat down gracefully. Captain Morrison, how much do you know about galactic history? Nothing, Jake said honestly. Until today, we thought we were alone in the universe. The Queen nodded sadly. Your people have been isolated for so long, but you are not alone. There are hundreds of intelligent species in this galaxy. My people, the Zephyrians, have been protecting many worlds for thousands of years. Protecting them from what? Dr. Park asked. From chaos, from wars. from species that would destroy others for resources or territory. The Queen's silver eyes looked tired. We have kept peace in this part of the galaxy for a very long time, but that peace depends on my family's rule. Tell us about this law, Jake said. The one that says you need a mate. Queen Lyrale's hands clenched together on the table. It is an ancient law, created when my people first became rulers. It says that every ruler must have children to continue the bloodline. If a ruler does not take a mate and produce an heir, within 1 year of taking the throne, they must give up power. How long have you been queen? Amy asked. 11 months, the Queen said quietly. My parents died in an accident. I never expected to rule so young. I thought I had time to find someone compatible with my genetics. What makes someone compatible? Dr. Park asked. As the ship's doctor, she was clearly interested in the medical side. Zephyrians can only have children with certain genetic types, the Queen explained. For thousands of years there were several species we could mate with, but war, disease, and time have eliminated all of them, except for humans. How do you know humans are compatible? Dr. Park asked. We have studied your species for decades. Kethavar spoke for the first time since entering. Your genetics are almost identical to the old compatible species. Jake felt overwhelmed. Your Majesty, even if what you're saying is true, I'm just one person. I can't make this decision for all of humanity. I understand, the Queen said. But the decision must be made soon. The rebels who are attacking my fleet believe that my inability to find a mate proves I am unfit to rule. If they capture me, they will kill me and take over the Empire. What happens then? Ben asked. War, the Queen said simply. The rebels believe in conquest, not protection. They will attack weaker worlds and take their resources. Millions will die. Dr. Park leaned forward. Your Majesty, may I ask about the compatibility testing? I'd like to understand the science. Of course. Kethavar brought the testing equipment. The warrior reached into a pack and pulled out a device that looked like a small scanner. This will analyze Captain Morrison's genetics and tell us if compatibility exists. Jake stared at the device. Everything was moving so fast. This morning he was just exploring empty space. Now he was being asked to marry an alien queen to prevent a galactic war. Captain, Amy said quietly, maybe we should contact Earth. Ask for instructions. There is no time, the Queen said. Her voice was shaking again. The rebel fleet grows stronger every hour, and the Galactic Council meets in 3 days to decide if my rule is legitimate. If I do not have a mate by then, you lose everything, Jake finished. Yes. Jake looked at his crew. Dr. Park seemed fascinated by the science. Amy looked worried about the political implications. Ben kept glancing at his communication equipment, probably wanting to contact Earth. Your Majesty, Jake said slowly, I need to understand something. If I agree to this, what happens to me? What happens to my people? Queen Lyrale met his eyes. If you become my mate, you become Prince Consort of the Zephyrian Empire. Your people would become our allies and gain access to our technology and protection. Earth would have a voice in galactic politics. And if I say no, then I lose my throne, the rebels take over, and eventually they will come for Earth anyway. Your people are not ready for that kind of war. Jake felt the weight of the decision crushing down on him. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the future of humanity. I need to think, he said. Of course, the Queen said. But please, think quickly. Every moment we delay gives the rebels more time to prepare. Suddenly, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Amy jumped up and ran to the communication panel. Captain, she called out. Long-range sensors show more ships coming out of hyperspace. Lots of them. Rebels? Jake asked. Kethavar was already moving toward the door. Yes, they have tracked us here. Captain Morrison, you must decide now. Will you help us, or will you run? Jake looked at Queen Lyrale. Her beautiful alien face was full of fear but also hope. She was looking at him like he was her last chance. Outside, Jake could hear his crew running to battle stations. The peaceful exploration mission had turned into something much bigger and more dangerous. "Your Majesty," Jake said, standing up. "Let's do that compatibility test." The scanner beeped softly as Dr. Park held it over Jake's hand. The small device glowed with blue light for several seconds, then made a pleasant chiming sound. "Perfect compatibility," Kethvar said, looking at the display. His silver eyes showed surprise. "I have never seen numbers this high," Queen Lyrelai gasped. "Are you certain?" "Yes, my queen. Captain Morrison's genetics are not just compatible with yours, they are an ideal match." Jake felt his stomach flip. "So it's really possible?" "More than possible," the queen said. Her voice was filled with wonder. "Captain, if we bonded, our children would be stronger than either of our species alone." Before Jake could respond, Amy's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Captain, to the bridge immediately. The rebel fleet has arrived." Jake ran to the bridge with the queen and her guard following behind him. On the main screen, Jake could see dozens of dark ships appearing out of nowhere. They were smaller than the Queen's royal vessels, but there were many more of them. "Report," Jake ordered. 43 enemy ships," Amy said quickly. "They've surrounded the Queen's fleet, and Captain, they're heading for us too." On the communication channel, a harsh voice began speaking in the alien language. The computer translated immediately. "This is General Vextar of the Zephyrian Liberation Front. Queen Lyrelai, you have contaminated yourself by associating with these primitive humans. Surrender now and your death will be quick." Queen Lyrelai stepped forward. "Computer, open a channel to all ships." "Channel open, Your Majesty." The Queen stood straight and proud. When she spoke, her voice was strong and clear, no longer shaking with fear. "General Vextar, I am still your queen. These humans have offered to help us, and I accept their offer. Captain Morrison of Earth has agreed to become my mate." Jake's eyes went wide. He hadn't actually agreed yet, but looking at the Queen's determined face, he realized his decision had already been made. "I stand with Queen Lyrelai," Jake said loudly. "Anyone who wants to hurt her will have to go through us first." General Vextar's laugh came through the speakers, cold and cruel. "One small human ship? You cannot change the outcome of this battle. Queen Lyrelai, your reign ends today." The rebel ships began moving closer. Energy weapons started firing. "Amy, evasive maneuvers," Jake ordered. "Ben, send a message to Earth. Tell them what's happening." "Captain," Queen Lyrelai said, "if you truly mean to stand with me, then we must complete the bonding ceremony now." "Now? In the middle of a battle?" "The bond will give me access to powers I cannot use alone," she explained quickly. "Powers that could help us win." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was preparing for a fight they couldn't win. Against 43 alien warships, Terra's hope would last maybe 5 minutes. "What do I have to do?" Jake asked. Queen Lyrelai pulled a small crystal from around her neck. It glowed with soft blue light. "Take my hand and place your other hand on this crystal. Speak the words I say." Jake took her hand. Her skin was warm and soft. He put his other hand on the crystal and immediately felt a strange, tingling sensation. "The ancient laws of my people," the Queen began. "By the ancient laws of your people," Jake repeated. "I bind myself to you in body and spirit. I bind myself to you in body and spirit. We are one heart, one mind, one soul. We are one heart, one mind, one soul." The crystal suddenly blazed with bright light. Jake felt something like electricity flowing through his whole body. Queen Lyrelai gasped and her eyes began to glow with the same blue light. "It is done," she whispered. "I can feel your thoughts, Jake Morrison. Your courage, your compassion. You truly want to protect people." Jake could feel something too. A connection to the Queen's mind that was warm and comforting. "I can sense you too, your fear for your people, your determination to save them." "Captain," Amy called out, "the Royal Fleet is breaking formation. They're moving in perfect coordination now." On the screen, Jake could see the Queen's 8 remaining ships moving like they were controlled by one mind. They spread out in a complex pattern that put each ship in the perfect position to defend the others. "That's my doing," Queen Lyrily said. Her voice sounded different now, more confident. "The royal bond allows me to connect with all Zephyrian minds at once. I can coordinate our entire fleet perfectly." "But we're still outnumbered," Jake pointed out. "Yes, but now we have human creativity on our side." The Queen smiled at him. "Show me how humans fight, my mate." Jake grinned. "Amy, take us into the middle of their formation. Dr. Park, can you boost our shields?" "Not for long, Captain. Doctor?" Park replied from her station. "It doesn't need to be for long. Ben, I want you to jam their communications. Make it so they can't talk to each other." "On it, Captain." Terra's Hope dove toward the rebel fleet. The small human ship was so much faster than the big alien vessels that it reached the center of their formation before they could react. "Now, Amy, full reverse." Amy spun the ship around and fired the engines at maximum power. Terra's Hope shot backwards, but its momentum carried it right between two rebel ships. Both aliens tried to shoot at the human vessel and ended up hitting each other instead. "Clever," Queen Lyrily said approvingly, using their size against them. One by one, Jake's tactics began to work. The human ship was too small and fast for the rebels to target effectively. Meanwhile, the Queen's mental link let her royal fleet coordinate attacks with perfect timing, but there were still too many enemy ships. "Captain," Amy said, "our shields are failing." "We need help," Jake said. Suddenly, new ships appeared on the scanner, but these weren't rebel vessels. "Human fleet dropping out of hyperspace," Ben announced with surprise. Jake stared at the screen. 6 human ships had just arrived, including the heavy cruiser New Washington. "This is Admiral Kate Murphy of the Earth Defense Force," a familiar voice said over the radio. "We got your message, Jake. Thought you might need some backup." Jake almost laughed with relief. "Admiral Murphy, you have perfect timing." "We heard about your royal wedding," the Admiral said with amusement in her voice. "Congratulations, Your Majesty. Earth stands with our new allies." The combined human and Zephyrian fleet turned the tide of the battle. The rebel ships, designed to fight large, slow vessels, couldn't handle the speed and unpredictability of human tactics combined with Zephyrian coordination. General Vextar made one last desperate attack, leading his remaining ships in a direct assault on Terra's Hope. "He's targeting you specifically," Queen Lyrily said. "If he kills you, our bond breaks and I lose my powers." "Then we don't let him kill me," Jake said. "Amy, head straight for his flagship." "Captain, that's suicide." "Trust me." Jake could feel the Queen's mind touching his, and suddenly he understood her people's technology in ways that should have been impossible. "Your Majesty, can you overload their shields using the royal frequency?" "Yes, but I would need to be very close." "Amy, get us right next to their command ship, full speed." Terra's Hope raced toward General Vextar's flagship. The rebel ship fired everything it had, but Amy's piloting and the Queen's mental guidance kept them alive. At the last second, Queen Lyrily placed her hands on the ship's communication system. Blue light flowed from her fingers into the equipment. The rebel flagship's shields collapsed instantly. Without protection, the ship's weapons overloaded and exploded. General Vextar's last transmission was filled with rage and disbelief. "Impossible! Humans cannot understand our technology. They can when they're bonded to a Zephyrian queen," Jake said with satisfaction. The remaining rebel ships surrendered immediately. The battle was over. Jake slumped in his captain's chair, exhausted. Queen Lyrily sat down beside him, her hand finding his. "We did it," she said softly. "My reign is secure. My people are safe." "Our people," Jake corrected her. "Humans and Zephyrians together." The Queen squeezed his hand. "Yes, our people." On the main screen, Earth ships and Zephyrian vessels flew, side by side, heading toward a future none of them could have imagined just a few hours ago. 3 months after the battle, Jake stood on the bridge of the royal flagship Starlight Dawn. Through the massive viewing windows, he could see the most incredible sight in the galaxy, the Galactic Council Station. The station was enormous, bigger than Earth's moon. Ships from hundreds of different worlds docked at its ports. Some looked like floating crystals, others like living creatures, and a few were just balls of energy held together by force fields. "Nervous?" Queen Lyralee asked, walking up beside him. She was wearing formal royal robes, but Jake could feel her worry through their mental bond. "A little," Jake admitted. "I'm about to represent all of humanity to species we've never even heard of." "You'll do well," the Queen said. "I have seen your mind, remember? You are honest and fair. That's more than most politicians can claim." Jake smiled. Over the past 3 months, he had gotten used to the strange connection they shared. It wasn't like reading each other's thoughts exactly. It was more like feeling each other's emotions and intentions. The bond had other effects too. Jake found he could understand Zephyrian technology instinctively. He could speak their language without thinking about it. And sometimes, when the Queen was using her royal powers, he could sense the minds of her people across the galaxy. "Incoming transmission from Earth," announced the ship's communication officer. "Put it through," Jake said. President Helen Ross appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. "Jake, Lyralee, how are things going?" "We dock in 1 hour," Jake replied. "The council meeting starts tomorrow." "Good. I wanted to update you on the colony situation. The first group of human families has arrived at New Terra. The Zephyrian engineers say the planetary modifications are going perfectly." Jake nodded. New Terra was the first joint human-Zephyrian colony world. Humans provided the colonists and farming knowledge, while Zephyrians provided the technology to make hostile planets livable. "Any problems?" Queen Lyralee asked. "Just minor ones. Some of the human kids are learning Zephyrian faster than their parents, and apparently Zephyrian children think human games are hilarious." Jake laughed. "That sounds like a good problem to have." "There's something else," President Ross said, her expression becoming serious. "We've been getting reports from our deep space monitors. Ships from unknown species have been spotted near our borders. They're not hostile, but they seem to be watching us." "Other council members," the Queen said. "They want to see what humans are really like before tomorrow's meeting." After the transmission ended, Jake and the Queen went to their quarters to prepare. The royal suite was huge and decorated with crystals that provided soft, warm light. Jake still felt a little strange living in such luxury, but he was getting used to it. "Tell me about the council members we'll be meeting," Jake said as they sat down to eat dinner. Queen Lyralee pulled up a holographic display showing different alien species. "The Altarians are the most powerful. They've been spacefaring for over 10,000 years. She pointed to an image of tall, thin beings with golden skin. "They think they're better than everyone else. Will they support us? Probably not. They don't like change, and humans represent big changes." She moved to the next image. "The Threks are warriors. They respect strength. These aliens looked like giant insects with 4 arms. They might support us because of how well you fought against the rebels." "And these?" Jake asked, pointing to a group that looked like living trees. "The Keepers. They're the oldest species in the galaxy, but they rarely speak. No one knows what they're thinking." Jake studied the display. There were dozens of different species, each with their own culture and politics. "This is complicated, very complicated. But Jake, remember, most of these species have been in the council for thousands of years. They're set in their ways. Humans bring something new, fresh ideas. That might be exactly what the galaxy needs." The next morning, Jake put on his formal, Earth dress uniform. Queen Lyralee wore the crown of her people, a beautiful piece made from crystal that seemed to hold starlight. Together, they walked into the council chambers. The chamber was circular and enormous. Representatives from 200 species sat in floating seats arranged in rings around a central speaking area. Jake had seen pictures, but being there in person was overwhelming. "Beings of the Galactic Council," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We welcome Queen Lyralee of the Zephyrian Empire and her bonded mate, Prince Consort Jake Morrison of Earth." As they walked to the center of the chamber, Jake could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching him. Some looked curious, others suspicious, and a few seemed hostile. "Your Majesty," said a tall Altarian with golden robes. "This council recognizes your marriage and the continuation of your reign. However, we have concerns about bringing such a young species into galactic politics." Queen Lirelei stepped forward. "Ambassador Zenth, humans have proven themselves in battle and in diplomacy. They deserve a voice in this council." "They have been spacefaring for barely 50 years, the Altarian replied coldly. "Most species here have been traveling the stars for millennia. What wisdom can humans possibly offer?" Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but the Queen's calm presence in his mind helped him stay controlled. He walked forward to stand beside his wife. "Ambassador Zenth," Jake said politely, "you're right that humans are new to space travel, but being new means we see problems differently. Sometimes fresh eyes can find solutions that experience misses." A rumbling voice came from the Threk section. "Humans fought well against Zephyrian rebels. This one has courage." "Courage is not enough," the Altarian said. "The Council requires wisdom, patience, and understanding of galactic law." "Then test us," Jake said simply. The chamber fell silent. Testing new species was rare, but it was allowed under Council law. "Very well," Ambassador Zenth said. "Humanity claims to offer fresh solutions. There is a problem the Council has debated for centuries without resolution. The Kree and the Vorthon have been at war for 300 years over mining rights in the neutral zone. If humans are so wise, let them solve this." Jake felt his heart sink. He knew nothing about these species or their war. But through the bond he sensed Queen Lyraleigh's confidence in him. "May I have access to the case files?" Jake asked. Granted. Information flowed into Jake's mind through his connection to the ship's computer. The Kree were a proud warrior species who believed the mining rights belonged to whoever could hold them by force. The Vorthon were traders who claimed they had legally purchased the rights centuries ago. Both sides had valid arguments. Both had suffered losses, and both refused to compromise. Jake thought about it for several minutes while the entire council waited. Finally, he had an idea. "The problem isn't who owns the mining rights," he said. "The problem is that both species are thinking about this the wrong way." "Explain," Ambassador Zenth demanded. "Instead of fighting over who gets to mine the asteroids, why not work together? The Kree have the military power to protect mining operations. The Vorthon have the trade networks to sell the materials. If they formed a partnership, both species would make more profit than either could alone." The chamber erupted in discussion. Jake could hear dozens of different languages as aliens talked excitedly among themselves. "It is logical," said a mechanical voice from the artificial intelligence section. "But will they accept it?" asked someone else. "There's only one way to find out," Jake said. "Let me talk to them." 2 hours later, representatives from both the Kree and Vorthon species stood in the center of the chamber. Jake had spent time with each group separately, listening to their concerns and explaining his proposal. "The humans suggest wisdom," said the Kree representative, a fierce-looking being covered in natural armor. "Partnership instead of conquest." "The profit projections are impressive," admitted the Vorthon delegate, a thin creature with 4 eyes. "We would make 3 times as much working together." "Then you agree to the partnership?" Jake asked. Both aliens nodded. The chamber exploded in applause and various alien sounds of approval. Ambassador Zenth looked shocked. "In 2 hours you solved a problem that has troubled this council for 3 centuries. I had help," Jake said, gesturing to Queen Lyrelei. "And I had the advantage of not knowing why it was supposed to be impossible." The Queen stepped forward. "Members of the Council, humanity requests recognition as a galactic species with full membership rights." The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. Only a few of the most conservative species voted against it. As they walked out of the chamber, Jake felt overwhelmed by what had just happened. Humanity was now officially part of the galactic community. "You did wonderfully," Queen Lirelei said. "We did wonderfully," Jake corrected her. But even as they celebrated, Jake noticed that some of the alien delegates were still watching them suspiciously. And in the back of the chamber, the mysterious keepers remained completely silent. Something told Jake that the real challenges were just beginning. Jake sat in the medical bay of Starlight Dawn holding his newborn son. The baby was sleeping peacefully, tiny fingers wrapped around Jake's thumb. He looked mostly human, but his eyes held flecks of silver, and when he slept, his skin had a faint blue glow. "He's beautiful," Dr. Park said softly. She had been studying the baby's genetics for the past week. "Jake, this child is remarkable. He has abilities neither species possesses alone." Queen Lyrelai was resting nearby, still weak from giving birth. But she was smiling as she watched her husband and son. "What kind of abilities?" Jake asked quietly, trying not to wake the baby. "He can interface directly with any technology, human or Zephyrian," Dr. Park explained. "And his psychic potential is off the charts. He'll probably be more powerful than the Queen when he grows up." "His name is Alex," Jake said, looking down at his son. "Alex Morrison Lyrelai. He's going to be the bridge between our peoples." Through the ship's windows, Jake could see Earth in the distance. They were visiting his homeworld for the first time since little Alex was born. Jake wanted his son to know both of his heritages. "Incoming transmission from the Galactic Council," announced the ship's computer. "Not now," Jake said. "We're having family time. Sir, it's marked as extremely urgent. Class 1 priority." Jake sighed and handed the baby to his wife. "Put it through." Ambassador Zenth's golden face appeared on the screen, but he looked worried instead of his usual arrogant self. "Consort Morrison, we need you and Queen Lyrelai to return to the council station immediately. We have a crisis." "What kind of crisis?" "Several council members are demanding that your child be removed. They claim he's too dangerous to live." Jake felt cold anger flowing through him. "They want to kill my son?" "Some do. They fear what he might become. A being with both human creativity and Zephyrian power could reshape the galaxy." Queen Lyrelai sat up in her bed, her silver eyes blazing with fury. "Let them try. I will destroy anyone who threatens my child." "Your Majesty, please," Ambassador Zenth said quickly. "Violence will only make things worse. The Keepers have finally spoken. They want to meet with all of you." Jake's anger turned to surprise. The ancient, tree-like beings hadn't said a word in the entire time humans had been part of the council. What do they want to talk about? They wouldn't say. But Jake. When the Keepers speak, the entire galaxy listens. 2 days later, Jake stood in the deepest part of the council station. The Keeper chamber was like a forest, with walls covered in living wood and leaves. The air smelled of growing things and old wisdom. 3 massive Keeper beings stood in the center of the room. They were over 20 feet tall, with bark-like skin and branches instead of hair. Their eyes were deep green, like looking into ancient forests. Jake held baby Alex in his arms while Queen Lyrelai stood beside him. Around the chamber, representatives from every major species watched nervously. The largest Keeper spoke, its voice like wind through trees. "Human Jake Morrison, Zephyrian Queen Lyrelai, we have waited long for this moment." "Waited for what?" Jake asked. "For the child who would unite the galaxy." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Even Ambassador Zenth looked stunned. "I don't understand," Queen Lyrelai said. The Keeper gestured. With one branch-like arm, and images appeared in the air around them. They showed the galaxy as it was millions of years ago, with different stars and planets. Long ago, we Keepers were not alone. We shared the galaxy with beings called the Ancients. They were the first to travel between stars, the first to create life on empty worlds. The images changed, showing beautiful crystal cities and ships that looked like they were made of light. The Ancients knew that one day, a great darkness would come from beyond our galaxy. A force that would destroy all life if it found us divided. So they planted seeds. "Seeds?" Jake asked. "Life seeds. Species that could grow and spread across the stars. Humans were one of these seeds, placed on a distant world to develop in isolation until they were ready." Jake felt his world spinning. "Are you saying humans were created by aliens?" "Not created. Guided. Your species' natural curiosity, Your ability to adapt and work together. These traits were encouraged over millions of years. Queen Lyrily stepped forward. And the genetic compatibility between humans and Zephyrians, also planned. The ancients knew that when the darkness came, only united species could stand against it. Your child represents the beginning of that unity. The images changed again, showing dark ships moving between galaxies. The darkness has arrived, the keeper said solemnly. Our deep space monitors detected the first scout ships 3 months ago. A force that has consumed entire galaxies is coming for ours. Jake felt baby Alex stir in his arms. The child's silver-flecked eyes opened and seemed to look directly at the keeper. How long do we have? Jake asked. Perhaps 5 years before the main force arrives. We must use that time to unite all species in the galaxy. Every world, every culture, every form of life must stand together. And you think Alex can help with that? Queen Lyrily asked. Not just help, lead. This child will grow up understanding both logic and emotion, both human creativity and alien wisdom. He will speak to every species in ways they can understand. Ambassador Zenth stepped forward. Honored keepers, even if this is true, the child is still an infant. How can a baby help us prepare for war? The keeper looked at Alex again. Show them, young one. Baby Alex reached out his tiny hand toward the nearest computer console. Blue light flowed from his fingers, and suddenly every screen in the chamber came alive with data. He's accessing the entire council database, someone whispered in amazement. The baby made soft cooing sounds, and somehow Jake understood what his son was trying to communicate. He's not just accessing data, Jake said in wonder. He's improving it, making connections between different databases that were never linked before. Impossible, said the Altarian delegate. No infant should have that kind of mental capacity. He is not just any infant, the keeper replied. He is the first of a new kind of being, half human, half Zephyrian, all hope. Over the following weeks, Jake watched in amazement as his son continued to grow and develop at an incredible rate. Alex could understand any language within minutes of hearing it. He could solve complex mathematical problems just by looking at them, and his psychic abilities grew stronger every day. But more importantly, everywhere they went, Alex seemed to bring out the best in people. Aliens who had been suspicious of humans found themselves smiling at the baby. Species that had been enemies for centuries started talking about working together. It's not just his powers, Queen Lyrily observed as they visited another council world. He makes people feel hopeful. Jake nodded, watching his son play with a group of alien children. Despite their differences in appearance and culture, they were all laughing together. Maybe that's his real gift, Jake said. Not his abilities, but his ability to help others see past their differences. The preparations for the coming darkness began in earnest. The council approved the largest military buildup in galactic history. Species that had never worked together started sharing technology and resources. And at the center of it all was a human family that had started with a desperate alien queen and a curious starship captain. One evening, as Jake and Lyrily watched Alex practice his growing powers, the queen placed her hand on Jake's arm. Do you ever regret it? She asked. Giving up your simple life as an explorer? Jake thought about it as he watched his son make toy ships dance in the air with his mind. Never. That morning when we received your distress call, I thought we were just helping someone in trouble. I had no idea we were changing the course of galactic history. Neither did I, the queen admitted. I was so frightened my voice was shaking when I asked you to be my mate. I thought I was just trying to save my throne. And instead we created the future, Jake said, pulling her close. Alex looked up from his toys and reached toward his parents. As they picked him up together, Jake felt the love and hope flowing through their family bond. Outside their window, ships from hundreds of worlds flew in formation, preparing for the greatest challenge the galaxy had ever faced. But Jake wasn't afraid anymore. Humanity had found its place among the stars not through conquest or dominance, but through cooperation and love. The voice of the alien queen no longer trembled with fear. Now it carried the strength of someone who had found not just a mate, but a partner in creating a better future for all life in the galaxy. And in his father's arms, baby Alex gurgled happily, his silver eyes reflecting the light of 1,000 stars, ready to help unite them all.